Every guy has a time in his life when the world discovers the truth he has been concealing for decades. For Jason Statham, the world's toughest action hero, that moment came far too late. People saw the fists, the stunts, the invincible roles, but they never knew the price he was enduring behind the scenes. At 58, after a lifetime of outrunning poverty, grief, near-death accidents, and the collapse of his own body, his story shows a reality more horrific than any trick he ever attempted. Additionally, after hearing what he has, you might never look at him the same way. After all these years of silent carrying, a difficult upbringing. Jason Statham's narrative didn't begin in Hollywood, but in the coal-stained hamlet of Shirebrook, Derbyshire, a place where ambitions weren't encouraged, only survival was. He was born on July 26, 1967, into a world characterized by chilly winters, empty pockets, and parents who put in 3 times as much labor as anyone should. His father, Barry Statham, born in 1939, took whatever job he could find. Miner at dawn, painter at noon, street vendor in the afternoon, and pub singer when the night demanded extra revenue. His mother, Eileen Yates, danced on little stages under low lights, seeking acclaim that faded before she ever reached home. Growing up, Jason witnessed 2 worn-out grown-ups do their hardest to make one more day out of nothing. Home was never still. Barry hustled. Ian gave a performance. Lee, Jason's elder brother, was a guitarist, and the 3 of them rehearsed life like it was a show meant to entertain hunger itself. Their abode smelled of detergent, coal dust, and continual fear. The end of each week was the same. The family gathered beneath a flickering bulb, counting monies to see how far tomorrow may reach. Childhood wasn't gentle to Jason. It didn't allow gentleness. It shaped him in ways neither celebrity nor money could ever erase. When he was 10, the family moved to Great Yarmouth, a coastal town full with noise and tourists, but still no opportunities. Barry went back to selling junk jewelry, inexpensive perfume, and anything that would put food on the table. He received his black belt in karate. He mastered grips, takedowns, discipline, and most importantly, control. Martial arts became the thing poverty couldn't touch. Then came football. Between 1978 and 1983, he played forward alongside another unknown kid, Vinnie Jones. It wasn't glamour, but it taught him teamwork, order, and restraint in a world full of chaos. Every sport he touched became a survival tactic. Every day was another instruction in how to fight back without making a sound. He added diving to his list of conflicts by the time he was 12, plunging into frigid water, exercising before sunrise, and learning how to fall without fear. The discipline he developed throughout those formative years would ultimately save his life, even though he was unaware of it at the time. The dreams that broke him before fame ever could. Jason Statham had already become accustomed to discipline by the time he was a teenager. While other boys followed easy pastimes, he chased mastery. At 12, he went head first, literally, into the world of competitive diving. Training at London's Crystal Palace National Sports Centre, he pushed himself past exhaustion, mastering 1M, 3M, and 10M platform dives. Most professional divers began at age 5. Jason was aware that he had started too late, but instead of discouraging him, it hardened him. He trained in icy pools long after the lights went out, performing dives in quiet while janitors shut up for the night. His hands burned, his muscles tore, but he kept going back to the board again and again, teaching himself how to rise after every fall. 12 years passed like this. 12 years of selflessness. 12 years of hope that he could break free from the life he was born into. And then came 1990. At 23, Jason finally represented England at the Commonwealth Games in Auckland, New Zealand. His results weren't podium-worthy. 8th in the 1 meter, 11th in the 3m, 12th in the 10 meter. However, they meant opportunity to him. The Shirebrook child briefly gave himself permission to think he had overcome the odds. However, destiny was not done testing him. In 1992, the British Olympic team unveiled its final lineup. It didn't break him. It converted him into something else. Someone who no longer expected life to reward hard work, simply to confront it. With his diving career terminated and no money to fall back on, he went to what he knew: survival. He and his father went back to the streets, where they peddled cheap jewelry, phony watches, and perfume on curbs and in marketplaces. Rain, wind, cold, it didn't matter. Hunger didn't wait, so he worked hard. He learned how to speak fast, read faces, and dodge danger after undercover police nearly captured him for selling counterfeit items. Every day was a gamble. Each sale served as a lifeline. Modeling met him by accident in 1996 after a scout spotted his athletic build. He worked for Tommy Hilfiger, Levis's Griffin, and French Connection, but the salary barely covered rent. He was famous on posters, but broke in reality. His fridge was often empty, and he survived more on grit than revenue. And then everything changed the day Guy Ritchie stepped in and begged him to sell him a fake watch. Loneliness comes more quickly than fame. Guy Ritchie wasn't searching for an actor when he first met Jason Statham in 1997. He was hunting for truth, the unvarnished, unpredictable truth. Jason was just that. Ritchie asked him to sell a phony watch as part of the tryout, and Jason slipped instantaneously back into the street hustler he had been for years. The performance wasn't performance at all. It was survival instinct. Ritchie didn't think twice. For just $20,000, Jason was cast as bacon and lock, stock, and 2 smoking barrels. It wasn't money that counted. It served as a gateway to everything he had been fleeing. The picture exploded in 1998. Jason stopped being a hustler all of a sudden. He was the face of British underground cinema. 2 years later, he co-starred with Brad Pitt in Snatch, where he played Turkish. During production, he broke 2 ribs in a combat sequence, but refused to step aside. By the time the movie grossed $83 million worldwide, Jason's scowl had become iconic. Hollywood came calling, and with it came The Transporter in 2002. This was the film that converted Jason Statham from British tough guy to international action hero. He trained for months in Wing Chun, Krav Maga, and advanced driving. He insisted on doing all the vehicle chases himself, reversing across small streets at approximately 80 m an hour wasn't CGI. Jason was driving, risking everything to be genuine. Bruised ribs, broken ligaments, and a shoulder injury that still clicks to this day became commonplace. Audiences adored him because he used suffering to shape his persona. But everything is magnified by fame, success, distance, stillness. In 1997, he had fallen in love with model Kelly Brook. For 7 years, she stood by him while he went from unknown hustler to Hollywood star. But when his career took off, their paths diverged. Everything finished with a picture of Kelly and Billy Zane on the Riviera. Jason said nothing publicly. He merely carried the disgrace alone. The sorrow of being replaced while you're still loyal, he once said, is something you don't forget. He tried again with Sophie Dahl, but filming schedules and his fixation with training turned him into a man who seemed emotionally detached. That flame died out in 6 months. Then came Alex Zosman in 2006, a partnership built on silence and serenity. Stillness, however, was not permitted in Hollywood. As his job quadrupled, time with her, with himself, disappeared. By 2009, he had become the action star everyone wanted, and the man no one actually knew. The deaths, the accidents, and the ghosts Hollywood never saw. By the time Jason Statham reached the 2000s, he had become one of Hollywood's last real action performers. The man who didn't use digital tricks, cables, or doubles. But the more he insisted on realism, the more perilous his world became. The stunts that captivated audiences were turning into a slow war on his body and mind. And that fight eventually bared its teeth in 2011 on the set of The Expendables 2. That day in Bulgaria started like any other. Jason was rehearsing beside a lake with a young stuntman named Kun Lu, just 26 years old, full of energy and proud to be working beside him. He idolized Jason, even told him that morning, "One day, I'll be where you are." Minutes later, an explosive went off too early. Smoke, fire, confusion, then silence. When it cleared, Kunlu was gone. Jason gazed helplessly, locked in a moment that affected him profoundly. "You think you're invincible," he added later, "until you watch someone die doing what you love." He never spoke of it publicly again, but every feat following held a reluctance no one else noticed. He thought of the youngster who will never get another chance for a silent moment. 2 years later, tragedy struck again, this time away from bombs and sets. Jason became close to Paul Walker during Fast and Furious 7, a man whose kindness and modesty disarmed everyone in his vicinity. Paul welcomed him into the close-knit ensemble, treated him like family, and reassured him that Hollywood wasn't always a lonely place. And then November 30th, 2013 arrived. Paul was gone in a car crash on a quiet California street. It was during rehearsal that Jason learned the news. He whispered, shocked, Paul couldn't be the one. However, it was. The man who embraced him had passed away while doing what he loved. Filming Furious 7 after Paul's burial was like going through sadness in slow motion. Every vehicle scene, every sentence, every stillness conveyed Paul's absence like a shadow. Jason subsequently commented, "You don't move on from someone like Paul. You just learn to carry the pieces." Then came 2014 Expendables 3, and the day Jason nearly killed himself. A flatbed truck plunges into the Black Sea from a dock due to broken brakes. Trapped underwater, fighting an impenetrable door, seconds from blackout, until instinct and years of diving expertise saved him. He resurfaced, gasping for oxygen, shivering, alive by a margin so tiny it tormented him for months. Stallone subsequently claimed if anyone else was behind that wheel, they'd be dead. The body that eventually broke before the man did. By the time Jason Statham approached his 50s, the toll of everything he had undergone began to manifest in ways even he could no longer deny. He has been walking through flames for decades. Broken ribs, split skin, concussions, damaged ligaments, a dislocated shoulder that never fully healed, and a wrist fracture he merely wrapped and disregarded. On camera, he seemed unstoppable. Off camera, doctors gently cautioned him that his body was accruing damage faster than it could mend them. For the first time in his life, Jason Statham was running out of conflicts he could win. Then came the medical reports in 2025, the ones that forced the world to realize the truth behind the myth. X-rays revealed crushed spinal discs from years of high-impact falls. One knee was encircled by scar tissue that resembled hardened rope. His left shoulder, already wounded in Transporter 3, now has decreased rotation. Signs of recurrent concussion damage were noted by a neurologist. On its own, nothing was disastrous, but when combined, they created a much more terrifying image. The corpse of a guy who had worked too hard and for too long. Rosie Huntington Whitley, the lady who had given him stability after a lifetime of chaos, sat beside him during the consultation. When the doctor outlined the long-term concerns, persistent nerve pain, limited mobility, early-onset arthritis, she didn't stay mute. She insisted him quit doing unsafe antics, not because she doubted his skill, but because she feared their children may one day grow up without a father. Jason has survived drowning, bee stings, high-speed wrecks, explosions, and a vehicle that nearly killed him. But none of that mattered to Rosie. She only wanted him alive. In a manner he had never encountered, he felt his identity fading. Action was the language he spoke. The price he paid for sincerity was pain. However, the discipline that had previously protected him now threatened to separate him from the people he cared about the most. He recalled being overseas filming Meg in 2020, so he missed his son Jack's first birthday. He recalls viewing milestones on a screen instead of from the same room. He recalled Rosie acknowledging in therapy that she was more afraid of silence than of being famous. And now he faced a fact he had spent decades evading. The calm life that shows the suffering that no one ever witnessed. Jason Statham, 58, seemed to lead an ideal existence. Beverly Hills and London luxury residences, a multi-million-dollar vehicle collection, international recognition, and a devoted family. But those who know him privately say the quiet moments reflect a totally different reality. Jason has developed into a guy who wears his history like a weight strapped to his chest as a result of nearly 40 years of grueling stunt work, restless filming schedules, and the emotional fallout from losing friends and coworkers. He still trains every day, boxing, swimming, yoga, not out of vanity, but because he fears what would happen to him if he ever stops moving. His nights are the worst. When the house falls silent, when Rosie and the children sleep, he often sits alone by the window, peering into the dark, not because he's brooding, but because he finally has space to experience everything he ignored for years. The fatalities, the accidents, the heartbreak, the stunts that nearly killed him, the fear of failure, and the strain of becoming Hollywood's last great action hero. Fame made him admired, but it also trapped him. He can't relax, can't be vulnerable, can't reveal vulnerability. Audiences expect him to be indestructible, and Jason has spent so long living up to that image that he doesn't know how to let it go. In recent years, he has become more protective, more cautious. The paparazzi drones that flew over his Beverly Hills mansion in 2023 provoked a terror in Rosie, who asked him to set boundaries with his work. Therapy helped them heal their relationship, but Jason still issues with letting people see the softer parts of him. When drones approached within inches of their windows, Jason tossed a shoe at one in fury, a moment that demonstrated how helpless the invasion made him feel. Fame brought him cash, but it also robbed his privacy piece by piece. Yet, amid all the chaos, he has found meaning. In 2025, he trained new stunt performers on a working man, teaching them the safety precautions he never had. He insisted on medical staff on site after he spent 3 unexpected days in the hospital in 2023. He gave £1 million to UK diving programs in 2020, intending to provide teenagers the same escape that once saved him. And even after death hoaxes emerged online stating he drowned or died in a collision, he simply chuckled, knowing that rumors were the price of being observed by the entire world. What do you think was the most startling portion of Jason Statham's story? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more true stories like this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and switch on notifications so you never miss what's coming next.